POC Network here with another unboxing, this time coming from the company called Beelink, and this is the U55 Mini Windows PC. It comes with Windows 10 pre-installed on this, but you could always, get rid of it and opt for Linux or something if you so choose. You're on your own for drivers, I believe, in certain situations, but it's just like any other mini PC. But it does come with Windows 10. I believe they say Windows 10 Pro, which is interesting. But it has some decent hardware inside. You'll find that this is similar to some other companies we've covered in the past, like Azul, who's got some interesting mini PC solutions. But this has an Intel Core i3 5005U, 2 gigahertz processor, and 8 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. So this is DDR3, not DDR4, but it's to be expected for the price. But it's 8 gigs, so don't have to worry about some of these, from the past that didn't perform well because they only had 2 or 4 gigs in there. For Windows 10, you definitely want at least 8 gigabytes. And they give you that on this, which is really cool. So there is no upgraded version of this, it's just 8 gigabytes. But 8 gigs is a great base rate, or base starting point at least. But it also has 128 gigs of capacity inside, and it is SSD, which is really important, which tells us that there's not going to be an SD card that's jammed into a little board in there somewhere. It actually is an SSD, which is going to give you decent speeds. So the reason why I mention that is that some of these mini PCs in the past, they did have SD memory on the inside for capacity, and that was terrible for an operating system. So stay far away from those. If you are going to invest into a mini PC, make sure it does have solid state capacity inside for storage. But what we're going to do is we're going to open this up, we're going to see what it looks like, we'll go over all the different inputs and outputs that it has to offer, and see what it comes with. So right here in the front, you are met with the actual mini PC at the bottom here, and it's about average in size, kind of like a mini Mac or Mac Mini. You have an accessory pouch right here that has some instructions in here. You have the user manual, and let's see here, it looks like it's in different languages, but that's going to walk you through setting everything up. You also have just a customer service inquiry card here that just says, hey, reach out to us if you have any questions. Well, to them, not us. You have a little pack of screws here, which is likely going to be for mounting things on the inside if you want to take it apart and add to it. Or you also have 2 mount screws here in the back in case you want to mount it to something. You'd have a bracket here, which is actually what this is more than likely for, not for the inside. But it's, well actually no, you do have the smaller screws in here, so likely some are for the inside, but some are for this, which is just a mount bracket. So in case you want to just mount it to something instead of just letting it sit on the tabletop or your desk or something like that. So great if you want to put it on the back of a TV, maybe use this for the VESA mounts on the back, so that way you can make it disappear if the TV is being hung on the wall for signage purposes or whatnot. But the second box here is going to contain the additional accessories, which is all your cables. You have your power adapter here, which is to plug into the wall, clearly. You have a very short HDMI cable, so this you will only be using if you're mounting this on the back of the TV and close to the HDMI ports. And you have a longer HDMI cable for mounting it anywhere else. That's important that they gave you both. That's pretty cool. So if you do want to put this on the back of the TV and mount it close to an HDMI port, you are covered there. And if you have a little bit more distance to run, they do have you covered there as well. So this is pretty cool. That makes everything, for the most part, ready to go right outside of the box. The only thing you need to supply is a mouse and keyboard. Now the inputs and outputs on this are split between the front and the back, and then you have one input on the side here, which is just your micro SD slot there. So if you want to expand the memory into using a micro SD slot or card, then you can do that. But preferably, I'd use that for like just file transfer between your mobile device cameras and things like that to get stuff on here. I wouldn't use that for system storage because again, you want to stay completely away from an SD card for system storage. But on the front here, you have a status LED here just to show you when it's powered on and working. You have a 2 USB 3.0 ports right there in the front, and right next to those is a USB Type-C port. And then you have a headset connection, which means it's going to be a multi-input. So it's going to be for headphones or a headset if you have a built-in microphone, or you can use this for a microphone only. You have a power button right there on the front for turning it on. On the back, you have a gigabit Ethernet input right there for networking, for wired networking. You have 2 USB ports again on the back, but these are USB 2.0, excuse me. These are USB 2.0 ports. So they're not 3.0, they are 2.0, but they're, At least they're not 1.0, but I don't know why companies still make use of 2.0. I mean, given you can, they're great if all you need it for is just a keyboard or a mouse. But for anything else, USB 2.0 nowadays is for the most part useless in our eyes because 3.0 is where it's at when it comes to transfer rates, and USB 2.0 is just kind of stuck far in the past. But for general basic accessories, it's just fine. Next, you have two HDMI inputs here in the back. Now it does support dual display coming out the back of this. However, these are 1.4 version for the HDMI. So even though it claims it does support up to 4K, HDMI 1.4 is only gonna get you 4K at 30 hertz or 30 frames per second. So it's not gonna be the best 4K performance, so I wouldn't expect anything much out of that. If you are going to use dual displays, I would limit yourself to 1080p or give or take around that, just for safety reasons. So and by safety I mean just so you don't cause any disappointment to yourself. But at least you'll get you'll get 1080p at 60 using the back with dual displays. If you go with 1080p, just keep in mind if you do decide to go with 4K, you are going to be limited to 30p. And then you have your DC input here for the power cable. It's a pretty simple mini PC, just like just about every other mini PC out there. If you want to upgrade anything, you can open this up and tinker with whatever's in the inside there, like the SSD, I'm sure you can swap that out. And that's it. It's, again, like any other mini PC, it's about the same shape and size. You have modern inputs around except for the HDMI. It's a little behind times, but for the price point of this, kind of makes sense. And yeah, plenty of USB inputs. I think you're going to be pretty good with this if you're, depending on what you're using it for. If you need something that's just a simple station that you want to install in the back of your TV in your living room or anything like that, and you want to run Windows or Linux off of it, it's going to be perfect. If you want to use this for signage, it's going to be perfect for signage, especially since it implements or makes use of an SSD on the inside. It has a decent processor on there. Again, 8 gigabytes of memory is incredibly important when it comes to Windows 10 because you don't want anything less than that if you want, if you're expecting any kind of performance out of that system. If you're using it for Linux, again, I would say that you may not be completely 100% on finding all the drivers, but it should, for the most part, work. We have seen some other comments out there of users using this with Linux, and they got along with it just fine, like Linux meant. And so in that case, this would be an excellent mini PC for using it as, running a server inside of your house, like a DNS server or anything like that. If you want to run Pi-hole on it, it should, well, not should, it would do absolutely fantastic with that because you require much less resources than what this has to be able to perform any of that. If you just want a Linux box and call that your PC, it should do pretty well as well, but just keep in mind, this is a mini PC, it's not meant for gaming or anything like that, so don't expect to have any kind of edge in the gaming world using this. So that's it. Again, the Beelink U55 mini PC with Windows preloaded on there. And for more information, we'll have links in the description as well, so that way you can see where you can actually get your hands on one of these, as well as any other additional information that crosses our minds. If you liked what you've seen here, don't forget to comment below and definitely hit that subscribe button so you can follow us now and in the future. And as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.